And now, Chancellor Rachel Reeves, Shadow Chancellor.
She wants to
be Chancellor in her dreams. Actually, she probably will get the gig. In fact, she definitely will. Has vowed to take on tax dodgers if Labour wins the next general election, which it will. The pledge is part of the opposition's wider plan to raise £5 billion a year by the end of the next Parliament, which the party says will fund its commitment to schools and the NHS.
Well, meanwhile, Labour's crackdown on tax dodgers also comes in the wake of Angela Rayner's two-home scandal, as the Labour deputy comes under increasing pressure to publish the legal advice she claims she received about the sale of her old council house. Well, joining us now is former Labour official Richard Power-Sayeed. Now, I know you're going to do the defence strategy, as that's why
if you say nobody cares, you're out of the studio, all right?
That's why we have you here. But, I mean, is this a sort of a rather uncomfortable juxtaposition?
Oh, that's an interesting one. So I'm not going to say nobody cares. I'm going to say nobody knows. You know what?
That's fair enough.
I'm not exaggerating. My housemate, who is like politically switched on, listens to the headlines.
Unlike you.
Unlike me. Oh yeah, never care. But the point is, like, doesn't like focus in on Westminster stuff.
All right. Fair enough. Yeah.
And I said to him yesterday, I'm going to be going on a rival channel to talk about Angela Rayner's taxes, and he was like, what? He had no idea. He hadn't heard about it. I've not heard.
Has he heard of newspapers? Or online the television, radio?
Because honestly, it's like, unless you're
Richard,
really
it's all over the front page of half the papers.
It's not actually over all of the front pages, and it's also not been one of the big stories on the tea time broadcast bulletins. And if you're a political comms person, which I used to be, that is what you care about, because that's what affects most voters. So most voters won't have heard about Angela Rayner's stuff.
Let's have a look at this.
Let's have a look at this. Good old left-wing newspaper.
Here's what your flatmate didn't actually spot. Will punish tax dodgers. Now, that's Rachel Reeves talking about punishing tax dodgers, talking about having a crackdown on tax evasion, which she should, and also, oddly, on tax avoidance, which isn't illegal. That's what we all do. We all try to avoid as much tax as we can, and then they get us and we pay what we have to. But that's what she says. Now, but it's just today, that looked really awkward, given that, we're talking about the Mail, a different political kind of animal than the Mirror, but all over that is, Angela Rayner's a tax dodger. I'm stressing she is denying that, but that's what the Mail is saying. The Mail is flat out calling her, day in, day out, a liar. Now, that presents a political problem.
I mean, it would only present a political problem if A, there was some evidence, and B, if it was something that people appeared to care about. But the amazing thing...
So you're saying there's nothing in these allegations? I
think they are complete nonsense.
Complete nonsense.
And the police...
There's nothing in it.
The police say it's nonsense.
No, they don't. Yeah. No, they don't. They are re-examining their decision not to investigate.
And the only reason that they're re-examining their decision not to investigate is because a Tory MP from their local area went to, is it Manchester Constabulary, Greater Manchester Constabulary, and said, you've got to do this. And they said, you know what, it's easier just to say yes to this. We don't have any new evidence. There's no reason to re-examine. But sure, yeah, sure, we'll do it.
Council are re-examining as well. Look, she says, that whether or not she did this wrong thing, she has got proper written advice telling her she was doing nothing wrong at the time. She says she's got that. So no one is asking her to publish her tax returns. She keeps conflating it. When we say, show us that expert advice you got, she says, oh, why should I show you my personal tax returns? We're not asking for that. We're asking for this letter that she says she's got that told her she was in the clear to go ahead with this house sale. Extraordinarily, when asked, when Keir Starmer was asked about this, he said, I back her all the way, I have full confidence. Have you seen this letter? No, I haven't. That is plausible deniability. If she's lying, Starmer can get out of it and say, I never saw this letter. This is a bit of a mess, isn't it? She could get rid of it by showing us this legal advice that she says she has.
She's shown it to the police, and the police
Why did she
say
show it
it's
to
fine.
us?
Because guess what, Kev? You don't matter, and the police do. You don't. What you think about Angela Rayner doesn't matter. What the police thinks does matter, and the police think it's okay, and they're only re-examining it because some little Tory MP started whining about it. That's the only reason.
So you say that the police are not really bothering with this investigation?
They absolutely are bothering.
Okay,
because
so
they
don't knock it down then. It's
they
serious.
don't have any new
it's
evidence.
serious.
They don't have any new
How
evidence.
do you know?
Because we
How
know
do you
what
know?
evidence they've got.
Why
They've
won't she
told
show
it.
us this letter?
Because she's showing it to the police.
Why won't she show it to us? Transparency.
Do you think perhaps, Kev, that people will look at this and be like, I trust the police and I don't trust the government that defunded the police for 9 years and who now arrogantly say that the government, know better than the cops? It's so embarrassing.
In so many respects, I don't trust the police, obviously. They're not renowned for being completely trustworthy in these areas. She should show us this letter. It's simple. Why hasn't Starmer seen this letter?
Do you know why I think Starmer's not seen it? Because the moment that the leader of the opposition says, yes, I am getting involved in this investigation, it's another...
he could be in trouble down the line.
It's another huge headline, right? It's another huge headline. And he rightly thinks that this is a nonsense story and he doesn't want to give it the oxygen.
Richard.
It is specifically specifically designed to distract people from the fact that we've got rats and cockroaches running through the NHS.
Don't do this. We're talking about Angela Rayner.
And that the government has defunded HMRC and then is kind of surprised that quite a lot of people
going back to
don't end up
Angela
paying their
Rayner,
tax.
why doesn't she pay her taxes?
Angela Rayner has paid exactly the taxes she was
How
advised
do you know?
to. And
How do you know? How do you know?
Because the police looked at the letter and they said so, and I trust the cops.
Well, I don't. I want to see the letter.
Let's go back to that Mirror front page, which is the Shadow Chancellor Rachel Reeves saying that they're going to go after people who are not paying their taxes. And specifically, they've talked in the past about non-doms, and this time it's non-doms who currently don't have to pay inheritance tax. Now they will. £5 billion a year. It's not really a massive amount of money, is it, for all the problems that we've got going on in the UK and, you know, the big underfunding of the NHS that we're constantly reminded of and our debt to GDP ratio. I mean, you know, it sounds big if that was someone's salary, but £5 billion a year for the Treasury to have as extra isn't what, say, Mr Hunt would call a great amount of extra fiscal headroom.
A £5 billion income does sound quite nice,
I
doesn't
know,
it?
that.
Maybe we can call the people upstairs.
Right.
So the point of this is not to suddenly solve all of the UK government's fiscal problems. The point of this is to solve a particular political problem that the Labour Party had, which was that in the budget, Jeremy Hunt kind of got rid of non-dom loopholes, then created a whole other new non-dom loophole just to help his rich friends out. But the point is that this is filling a little gap in, well, a £2 billion gap in Labour's spending plans, which has been there for a couple of weeks. So that's all it's really for. It's not supposed to solve everything. Rachel Reeves' big idea that she put forward in this lecture she gave a couple of weeks ago is that actually there are lots of things that we can do to make this country grow faster and be a fairer place for everybody without spending money, right? Like the housing policy that Labour's put forward is a big example of this. You go to councils and you say, you're not building homes, which of course is meaning that housing is more expensive and it's meaning the growth in that sector is slow. You're not building homes, so what we're going to force you to do legally is you've got to come up with your own plan for how you're going to build those homes. Hopefully that means that your electorate, your local people in that council will support it, and then you'll be forced to actually do that with private developers. It's a simple, cheap way of making it happen.
Look at London, though, where we have a Labour mayor and have done for 2 terms now, and probably will end up with one for a 3rd term. But, housing in London is probably one of the worst case scenarios in the entire country. Why? Because so many rich foreigners come and use it as a piggy bank with very high interest rates. So that's not really a shining example of housing being done by a Labour administration well.
Well, the point is that Sadiq doesn't have control over those things that you're describing there. He has a moderate amount of control over, encouraging council housing to be built, which he's doing. He has a moderate amount of control over saying, OK, if you're going to build...
to local councils saying you're not building enough houses, then surely the London mayor is responsible for London and housing policy in London.
But he's not totally responsible. He's only got a certain amount of control. And so councils will look at what Sadiq Khan's doing and saying, well, we want to do that, but we want to be even more ambitious because we've got more control over our local areas. And I hope that that's what they'll do. If they don't, a new Labour government, hopefully in a few months' time, is going to start forcing them to do that. And I think that's the right thing.
Does this mean, Richard, we won't end up under a motorway bridge with cats?
I mean, that's
because the cats won't want to go there. Just be you.
Rats, yeah.
It sounds quite nice, loads of cats under a
motorway bridge? Is that Labour's future for us?
If you've got enough climate change, then hopefully you'll be warm.
Well, get rid of the fossil fuels and they probably won't end up as warm anymore.